Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. Hope everyone is doing well out there this morning and having a great start to your day and a great weekend out there so far. Here to give you some update information on what's going to happen weather-wise between now and the next day or two. And I say two because once we get to like California, we will extend this into our Monday and even Monday night and into Tuesday morning, because today is sort of day one, even though it started yesterday. But today is really the big day of high impact conditions from this big time Pacific storm slamming California right now. So we'll speak on that in great detail. So that segment of the video will be pretty long. But we'll also speak on a line of strong to severe storms that is heading towards Florida right now. In fact, they've issued tornado watches for the southern tip of Florida, so this will have a tornado threat with it. A long, strung-out system that's bringing the severe weather threat is basically all the way up into areas of like Nebraska. Denver had a bit of a surprise yesterday. I think they got a little bit more snow than what was forecast. So, it just goes to show you, these systems can be very complex, and a degree or two can make a huge difference. And precipitation rates. Got some snow up in the northern Rockies. We'll speak a little bit on that. Also, Nova Scotia, Cape Breton Island, and Canada getting slammed by a major winter storm. Have been all weekend. But man, this morning it is definitely hammering you guys. So we'll speak on all of it at the very end of the video. Really, the second half of the video, we'll give you some update information on two storm systems I am watching, and then this pattern change coming up for mid-February. And I most likely will have a video tonight where we'll just primarily focus on that pattern change and speak on what's to come. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. So I kind of already mentioned it, but here's that line of storms heading towards Florida. We got some moderate to heavy rain falling across the panhandle of Florida, areas of Alabama, even getting into, pretty much taking over southwest Georgia. Rain falling in Memphis, the northern half of Mississippi, all the way up into the Boot Hill, Missouri, and Arkansas, and some light to moderate rain kind of getting slung into the Plains region. And then there's our big system in California. You see the areas of yellows and orange that indicate some pretty heavy moisture, and this is pushing up against the Sierra Nevada, dumping several inch per hour rates where, there's feet of snow, 6, 7, 8 feet of snow expected in some of these areas. Light to moderate snow flying around across areas of Montana. But outside of that, there's that winter storm hitting Nova Scotia, Cape Breton Island. That is snow in Cape Breton Island, and it's hitting you guys definitely pretty hard this morning, that's for sure. So I will continue to move forward as far as the Storm Prediction Center. We do have a marginal risk for severe weather south of San Francisco, but north of Santa Barbara, kind of in this area. So some of these storms could hit severe limits later on today. So we'll watch for that. But the big threat of severe weather is going to happen this morning across Florida. The southern tip of Florida has a slight risk. This is driven off a tornado threat. And if you look right here, there's that 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location right down here. So, definitely take this serious here between now and the next few hours down here in this region for sure. You look at the excessive rainfall outlook. We will zoom into this area right here in California. This will be the big threat of flash flooding. There is a high risk. It's not very common to get a high risk, but that means there's at least a 70% chance of flash flood guidance being met. So we will speak on this. We'll talk about this in great detail once we get to the western U.S. frame. Watches, warnings, advisories, the never-ending fog up here in the Dakotas and northern section of the country. We have red flag warnings, very windy conditions in southern areas of Texas. Southwest Texas will continue. Got wind gusts, pushing 30, 40, 50 miles per hour. Even some wind advisories. Make sure that is wind advisories. Yes, wind advisories up here in Alabama and Georgia. It'll even get breezy in South Carolina today. And if you look down here in this part of your screen, I might be blocked out here, but there it is right there. Tornado watches up for all the southern counties in the south end of the peninsula of Florida. So you guys have a threat of tornadoes. A couple tornadoes are possible. Some winter weather alerts across the northern Rockies. This is kind of what's going on right now, but all this is really taking over right now into the next 48 hours. High wind warnings in the mustard colors. Flood watches in the greens, which is pretty much over this entire area. You got winter storm warnings up for the higher elevations of, California, even some of these higher elevated regions down here in southern California. So these mountain ranges are a little bit closer to the Pacific Ocean, the coastline. So that's what's going on as far as watches and warnings. Talk about the southeast first. Take a broad look at this for us first this morning, and all the real action's happening right down here. But I do want to show you kind of the feed of moisture throughout the rest of the southeast. This rain, and we will zoom into Florida. Give me 1 second, and for my folks tuning in from Florida, we're going to zoom into you guys. But this rain will try to get north, and there could be some storm activity sort of in South Georgia today. There could be, but I don't expect anything too severe. This rain will get all the way up into Atlanta later this evening, all the way up to the southern border of Tennessee. I don't think it can get much further north than that, honestly. I don't even think it'll hit my neck of the woods here in Columbia, South Carolina. But some rains are possible, or likely, I would say, in the low country of South Carolina. And then this will kind of just taper off to some light rain showers throughout the deep south and throughout the overnight hours. And then we could get see some re-energized energy here in the Gulf of Mexico, and we could get some more storms for tomorrow for Florida. So let's talk about today, though. Here comes this line of storms, and we'll pull up the radar really quick for you folks down here. Here comes this line of storms moving in now. We'll have to get this in motion, move my face out the way, and there it comes. These storms are coming. These are the storms right here, especially for this area, that could produce a tornado and some gusty winds. So please take this serious. This is about to move into Tampa Bay right now. If you look at the latest HRRR model, a zoomed in look, this will really begin to take over here in the next hour or two. But it's these storms right here that have the best ingredients for a tornado. I mean, right down here, the southern tip of Florida, Miami, down to Fort Myers, points south, really. I mean, I would watch out in like the Florida Keys too. I mean, you have even better ingredients the further south you get. You just got to watch out for these storms. This is 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and this is getting to around, probably around lunchtime, 1 p.m. These storms kind of rocking through the Florida Keys, Miami. You got to watch out for these storms. This will probably happen, late morning, early afternoon. These storms will sweep through and definitely affect, areas like the Bahamas too. You guys will get some nasty storms later this afternoon and this evening, as maybe a line of storms makes its way through all of the northern Bahamas. So, and then it kind of clears out later this evening. Then you could, get some more bad weather that kind of moves in kind of late tonight. But I don't think this will be quite as bad as what we see this morning. So definitely be weather aware out here for sure. The updraft Felicity swath, has it the worst over the Florida Keys. So, man, if you're down there, definitely take this serious. I know you're just very small landmass, but, this could be one of those situations where you can see a water spout coming, might move into land, and just take this serious. And even though you don't see many highlight areas of, and basically what the updraft Felicity swath is it's kind of indicating by this particular one where rotation is in some of these storms that is showing on this one model run. So, it doesn't show it very high in the southern tip of Florida, but that doesn't mean that we couldn't get a tornado warning or two. So take this serious in South Florida for sure. We head on up to the northeast. It's a pretty quiet day. Like I said, there's a pretty big snowstorm ongoing in Nova Scotia. Some of the snow will try to kind of flirt with New Brunswick and even try to get all the way maybe into the down east areas of Maine, but I don't think it'll make it. I mean, some snow showers could overnight tonight make it all the way to the down east areas of Maine, but I don't think it's going to be much at all. Just some light snow is possible. But man, what a whopper of a winter storm for you folks in Atlantic Canada, that's for sure. So, but the rest of the Northeast is pretty quiet. There's not really anything going on, no real weather action going. The South Central U.S., very breezy conditions down here in Texas, especially the further south and southwest you get. So be aware of that if you're a trucker going through this region. But rain getting tossed into northern Arkansas, just a continuous feed of light and maybe at times moderate rain for you folks. And this will continue. Rain will begin to, will actually continue throughout Kansas and northern Oklahoma throughout the afternoon. It'll kind of lighten up and we'll kind of be left with some just lingering drizzle and light rain throughout Oklahoma. We'll kind of pivot all the way down into North Texas, but I don't think any of this is going to be a super big deal, just more of an annoyance, and just will kind of create a very rainy and wet and damp Sunday for you folks. North Central U.S., rain will continue to try to get back into Nebraska later today. I think, northern Kansas will see some on and off light rain throughout the morning and afternoon, but most of the North Central U.S. continues to have very quiet weather. You're being dominated by that ridge of high pressure, And, I've said it many times, ridging creates more stable conditions, and that's exactly what it's been across this area of the country. Very quiet conditions. Areas like Minnesota continues just to have a non-existent winter, and today certainly is no different at all. All right, so the western U.S., I will take that broad look at it first, and just because our friends up here in Montana dealing with that snow, you guys in central to western Montana, northern Idaho, even northwest Wyoming will continue to deal with some snow throughout the morning hours, early afternoon, and I think this will taper off later on today. Then our focus is going to shift to down here. So let's go on and just zoom into California. And here it is, this feed of moisture already getting pushed. Winds are already picking up in San Francisco, point south. And this is going to continue. It's the latest long-range HRRR model. You see the very dark blues in Sierra Nevada and the higher elevations of California. And this rain will just continue to push. And I think it'll get very intense around late morning around the San Francisco area, point south, as you just get this very heavy moisture feed, this atmospheric river feed of moisture that gets pushed into these regions. And if you look very closely, you see these kind of embedded areas of darker oranges and reds. That's heavier rain. That's probably some rumbles of thunder, some flashes of lightning. And not to ignore our friends up here in Northern California, but you're going to get a lot of moisture getting pushed into your area also. But once it gets up to the California kind of Oregon state line, it doesn't get that much further north of that. It does, but not too much further north. But this continues. We get into this afternoon, and this is when we can get some thunderstorms. After this main push of moisture that you're getting this morning kind of moves through, kind of just a sporadic convective feed gets pushed into these areas, and this is where we could get some gusty winds with some of these sort of embedded heavy burst of rain, some lightning, thunder. And then this is when we can start to see that atmospheric river set up a little bit further south. Finally, you guys begin to see some heavy rains down here near LA. Hasn't quite reached San Diego yet. But as we continue to move through, just some kind of on and off. And there it is. I mean, there's some, like this is San Fran, San Jose, south of these regions. You see these darker reds. Those could be in the form of thunderstorms, like after midnight tonight, that kind of gets pushed into the area. But as we're getting into our Monday morning, not as like congealed, more put together moisture, sort of just on and off moisture. But once you get down here to Southern California, this is where it's more put together, and you're just getting that feed of moisture down here in the Southern California coastline. This continues, and this is when it goes downhill fast after midnight tonight into tomorrow, our Monday, for like LA and north of LA and just surrounding areas. And this is why we had that high risk for tomorrow, which I'll talk to you here in about a minute. And then look at this direct feed into this area. I mean, it's not really pivoting for a several hour period, north to south. This is just a direct feed tomorrow morning into tomorrow afternoon right into LA and surrounding regions. And it looks like, San Diego is kind of getting missed. Now, I do think you'll get more rain than what this is showing. But, I mean, this is when it sets up. You kind of look right into here. This is this evening. This is around 4 p.m. California time out here. And then this feed of moisture really sets up down here. LA right into here. And it just continues for hours. Monday morning, Monday afternoon, Monday evening. And it's still ongoing. As we are getting into like late tomorrow evening. And if we kind of look at the extended version of this, which we'll have to look at the NAM, I mean, it finally tapers off to more just kind of sporadic conditions like Tuesday morning. But even then, I mean, it looks like you're getting a push of like thunderstorms into the Southern California coastline. So wild stuff today. I mean, make sure we got this right. Yeah, this is today. I mean, they already have a high risk of flooding, but I think this is more so. So you see this kind of pink purplish color right here? That is a high risk of flash flooding. That means there's at least a 70% chance of flash flood guidance being met within 25 miles in a given point. And I really think this is for what happens later in the time period today. Like once we get to the later half of the day into tonight, this is when it goes downhill for Los Angeles, for Long Beach, Santa Clarita. Hopefully that's the way how you pronounce it. Santa Barbara. Santa Maria, technically in the moderate risk, but you guys have a significant risk of flooding today too. This up here, this moderate risk, which means there's a 40% chance of flash flood guidance being met. This is more so what's happening right now into the day period. But San Fran Point South, San Jose, you guys are going to get hit pretty hard today. Monterey, you guys are going to get hit pretty good. You're already getting hit right now. So if we go into, I'm sorry, I keep having to clear my throat, guys. If we go into our Monday, this is when, it definitely gets bad. And let's make sure, I'm sorry. This is day 2. This is our Monday. So a little bit different. But I mean, it's centered right over LA. So a little bit of a smaller area. And as you can tell, there's a moderate risk that extends down to San Diego for our Monday. And this basically is from Monday morning to Tuesday morning. So it goes through that entire 24-hour period. And you got a high risk right over LA 2 days in a row, folks. San Diego has that moderate risk of flash flooding. So, and like I said, this is the key down here and what this means for high risk. At least a 70% chance of flash flooding. Moderate in the red stands for at least a 40% chance of flash flooding. And if you're wondering what the yellow means, that's at least a 15% chance of flash flooding. This is a big deal, folks. I mean, you look at the rain, more of a broad take at this. And I mean, another couple inches of rain expected for San Francisco. You're going to get rain shadowed a little bit in the valley regions between the higher elevations of the coastal regions of California and then the peaks of the Sierra Nevada. This is typical kind of rain shadow valley kind of conditions. But, a lot of rain. South of San Francisco, San Jose, you're going to get, between now and the rest of the events, another 3 to 5 inches of rain is likely. And then we look a little bit further south between now and Wednesday morning, a closer look. I mean, LA going for 4 to 6 inches of rain, folks. A lot of rain expected. And we're going to show you some really cool graphics here in a second that kind of zooms in to these areas. But you look at snow too. I mean, even Nevada is going to get a lot of snow. Sierra Nevada, feet of snow expected. You've already probably got at least a couple feet already, but more on the way. I mean, it's just maxed out in these areas. So stay tuned to your local people in these areas. I'm not going to pretend like I know every individual town and microclimate. It all depends on how high up you are in these areas. So winds, big deal today. I mean, it's already very windy. And, I'm going to try to mention a couple towns and cities in these areas, but you guys out in California that's tuning in know this better than I do. But the winds are really going to pick up here between now and the next several hours. And around San Jose, I'm trying to not say as much, guys, but that is a hard habit to break. I used to do a ton, trying not to say a ton, but I'm probably going to say it about 20 more times in this video. But San Jose, 50 mile per hour wind gust, they're saying is a maxed wind gust in this area. Santa Cruz, kind of the same thing. You get down to Monterey, and which is right into this region. I mean, just south of Monterey, like the Big Sur, I think is how you pronounce it. The potential is there for 75, 80 mile per hour wind gust. And I think you call it the Santa Lucia range, or the Santa Lucia range. I'm not sure how y'all pronounce it out there. I don't think it's Santa Lucia range, but this is an area kind of this morning that's going to get slammed with high winds. And then you look down here at some of these mountain ranges down here, sort of, and let's go on and just zoom into this area right here. Let's look at the entirety of this run. You see the winds are going to really peak today, and this is kind of getting into late morning. And then this is when we can get blizzard conditions in the Sierra Nevada. But look at these high winds all the way into early this afternoon for the Central California coastline. I mean, you guys are getting slammed right into here. I mean, today is the big day. If you're driving down that 101 corridor, man, it's going to be a rough drive. I hope you're just not doing it. But the central areas of the California coastline going to get hit, hit very hard in this region. That's for sure. We go down south to the California coastline, Southern California coastline, and they're saying, let me get this. And if you're wondering why I keep looking down, it's because I'm trying to mention some of these areas and things like that. But they're going for about a max wind gust of around 35 to 40 miles per hour in LA. But you go kind of right up the road to these higher elevations. I mean, look, higher mountain peaks just outside of LA, the chances for, a 60 to 80 mile per hour wind gust are there. And you go a little bit up the road to, the Santa Ynez or mountains. I probably butchered that all to heck. But Santa Barbara, you guys in those, Santa Barbara and just inland, these higher elevations right into here, these will be favored areas for those hurricane force wind gusts that are going to get, you guys are going to get hit very hard. You see these areas in like the yellows and the pinks, guys, that is wind gusts pushing close to 90 miles per hour in these regions. So, even up into the coastal regions, like tucked up against the coast right in here, you guys are going to get hit pretty hard right into this region right in here. So very hard. As far as wind gusts, and you guys are going to get some high-end impacts. And, taking a look at some graphics from San Francisco, Sacramento. San Francisco going for another 2 to 3 inches of rain. Monterey, 2 to 3 inches. A Big Sur, 4 to 6 inches of rain. King City, hopefully you can see this pretty well. San Jose, 2 to 3 inches of rain. So a lot of rain expected in these areas. And looking at some graphics down here in LA, Los Angeles going for around 5 inches of rain. Pine Mountain, almost 10 inches of rain. Some of these areas, this is just precipitation. Some of these areas could be snow, depending on how high up you are. But man, a lot of rain. Lots of rain. This is not good. Pasadena, goodness, almost 8 inches of snow. Not 8 inches of snow, 8 inches of rain. And you kind of look at another graphic from the National Weather Service in LA. Let's see if we can look right in here. And they've already had some high-end wind gusts in these areas. These are reported wind gusts from about an hour ago. So already high-end wind gusts up here in these regions already. And then, we look at, this was issued about an hour ago. Possible high-end wind gusts. Big Pine Mountain, 93 miles per hour. LA going around 35 miles per hour. Acton, 76 miles per hour. Santa Clarita, almost 60 miles per hour as possible high-end wind gusts in these areas. So this is a big deal. And we go a little bit further south and we look at our friends down here in San Diego. San Diego going for about 2.5, 3 inches of rain. But, just north of the city, this is when you're going to get the most rain for sure. 4 to 5 inches of rain expected. So that'll probably, that'll probably be the last really, really detailed update on that. I'll probably talk about it again in tonight's video, but we're kind of right in the middle of this storm. Well, not right in the middle of it, sort of the beginning stages of it, but by the time we get into this evening, we'll be right in the middle of it. And it'll be time for you to really focus in on what's actually happening outside your window for sure. But temperatures today, a pretty cool day across areas of the South, much cooler where there'll be rain falling. Where it isn't raining, you guys could warm into the 60s, pretty warm day, even with the rain, even across Florida, 60s and 70s for highs. This is well above average in these areas, but still a chilly day. Kentucky, Tennessee might have kind of a warm area just because it's not raining. A chilly day across the Northeast. Interior New England going to stay below freezing, but even the big cities like Boston and New York City, just 30s and 40s for highs. A little chilly across the middle of the country and the upper portion of the upper Midwest, but it should be much colder than that at this time of the year, so this is still well above average for you folks. And then a little bit cooler across the West. The Rockies, a little bit cooler, but nothing too crazy one way or the other out here, that's for sure. So let's move past this. Let's take a look. We're going to start this a little bit different than we have been. I'm looking at two storm systems. One is the storm system that's likely going to happen because it's a feed from what we're seeing from the specific storm moving into California right now. So what you're going to notice here is the bluer colors indicates lower pressure. Sort of the yellows, the oranges, and even reds indicates higher pressure. The blues indicates some sort of storm system on this specific thing that I'm showing you. So it makes sense because Monday morning we have lower pressure over the southeast, and it makes sense because we have a lot of energy down here, and we're going to have storms moving into Florida. So, just kind of making it more sense to what's actually happening to sort of help you guys as the audience. But what you notice, a lot of lower pressure takes over the western U.S. again, and then where you have almost these whites and almost purple kind of shade colors, this indicates a higher signal for a storm. So as we're getting into Wednesday morning, there's a low kind of going over Wyoming and might kind of shift one way or the other. But regardless, we have a decent low pressure tracking across the upper sections of the country, the Dakotas into Minnesota. This will be a warmer system because it's cutting so far north. So everybody kind of south and southeast and east of this low is probably going to be all rain. But this could bring some snows across the Dakotas and Montana and basically the northern plains. And this kind of continues and, kind of cruises into Canada. I think that system is going to happen. All right, and then we are starting to get into next Saturday morning, about 6 days from now. And what I want you to notice is this extension in bluer colors right into here. All right, so we kind of lose the influence of this, and then we have this additional kind of blue area right into here. And you notice it's kind of surrounded by kind of a lighter shade of blue, and then even a more lighter shade of blue, but the darker blues are right in here. To me, this is a signal for a storm signal, that second storm I've been talking about. And this is the European ensemble, and this kind of is going to cut also, probably across the Alps, maybe across the Ohio Valley, and then kind of get off the shoreline, maybe of the Northeast, and there it is, that low kind of showing up right in here. So this tells me that you're going to have a second storm system right into here somewhere. And you notice the second storm system is further south than the first. And then what happens after that? We don't know. We're getting kind of far out after that. And you can see this indicated off the latest European run. There's all our action Monday. We're going to be dealing with some rains across the southeast and some storms across Florida. But this finally heads on off. This was our once upon a time winter weather event. Last weekend we were talking about this that, unfortunately did not unfold for us winter weather fans. But here comes our storm that, started in California, moving across the Rockies, higher elevation snow. And then here comes the storm right here. And it's indicated off the European run. 993 low, not a super juiced up low by any means, but definitely a storm system cutting across the northern portion of the country. So up here in the Dakotas, snow's falling across areas of Montana, western Dakotas, Wyoming, and then this heads into Canada. And I mean, this is even too warm for like areas of like the Great Lakes region. This will be all rain. Look at this area of rain kind of moving across the east central U.S. And then this could, bring some impacts to the Northeast, later next weekend. And then this is our second storm system, which is much more robust on the Euro compared to the GFS, what I'm about to show you. But man, the Euro, about a week out from today, develops a low kind of across the Mississippi Valley. Cold air trying to crash down. It's not a forecast. A pretty strong low, 991 low. Okay, you would have to watch for some severe weather on the warmer side of this. And then, you keep this going, and this turns into a significant winter storm on the northern side of this low. And this is a 987 millibar low. So you're getting to that strong criteria as far as low pressure. And it wants to bring some sort of winter weather on the colder side of this, crashing down on this low. All rain for the mid-Atlantic and the southeast with this one, which we kind of expected with the second storm system. And then this brings a significant storm, winter storm for areas of the Northeast, even the I-95 corridor. But it's not a forecast, guys. But what I'm showing you this is because the Euro is picking up on that secondary storm system. Now, what about the GFS? GFS has that first storm system all day. There it is right there, kind of cutting across the upper portion of the country. All rain for the Great Lakes region, some snow for the northern sections of the northern plains. And this kind of moves out. This could deliver a moist feed also into for our friends here in the southeast. And then we watch kind of what the Euro is showing, the GFS, but you do not have as well put together storm system at all. Cold air is crashing down, but there is nothing like what the Euro is showing. You do get a low that forms like the Euro is showing, but not near as strong as what the Euro is showing. But it finally kind of develops a stronger low pressure off the coast of New England. But at that point, it's kind of not really impacting the lower 48 at all. And then what happens after that? That's what's got a lot of people wondering. I do think that second storm system could bring some headaches as far as trying to figure it out. And I think that as we get closer to it this week, we'll begin to talk about a lot more. But we need to get a little bit closer to it. And after what happens after that? I mean, you're getting some wild kind of changes in the models with this. We're just getting some wild runs, and we're getting past that 10-day range. And we don't know what the heck's going to happen. And what we do know is I'm going to have to pull this up on the fly, as I forgot to pull it up before I started this video. My little drawing thing right in here, make sure it's working. It is. So let's get this back off and keep this rolling. We've talked about this many times, like 90 different times. But we're going to continue to explain it for you folks that, are new to these videos, because I want to help you guys understand what's going on here. So as we get into the middle of this week, you see the blue colors. It's kind of the same thing we were showing about low pressure and high pressure just a second ago. And this is just a different way to look at it. This is at 500 millibars. It's about 18,000 feet up in the air. And it shows we have a ridge in the mid-levels of the atmosphere in the central and eastern U.S. And there it is, indicated by the oranges and reds and even pinks. Big time ridge is going to warm up everybody. And then we got lower pressure in the western U.S. This is indicated by that storm system that I just showed you that's going to cut across the Rockies and the northern plains. And so as this ridge begins to get anchored over, and I really wouldn't even say it gets anchored, it doesn't really dig any roots in the area because it's moving in and moving out. But as we get into the end of this work week, you see the warmer colors over the eastern U.S. This is going to bring a pretty warm weekend, end of this coming week, into this coming weekend, next weekend, for the eastern U.S. But if you notice, lower pressure indicated by the blue, storminess, below average temperatures most likely, begins to kind of shift somewhat into the central U.S. And then what happens after this, we finally start to shake our warmer than average period, and then there's that signal not only for a dip in the jet stream, which is going to bring cooler air, but also the lower pressure indicated by the blue, which indicates probably some sort of storm system. So at this point, we're getting into a different pattern 10 days from now. It's 9 to 10 days. And then what we watch for as we get a little bit further down the road is, come on, work for me here. We're having some struggles here. There it is. As we get a little bit further down the road, is one thing I'm watching is I'm pretty confident that storm number 1 is going to happen. And I'm pretty confident storm number 2 is going to happen. We just don't know the evolution. What about storm number 3? That's something we need to watch. And that's where the models get absolutely everywhere. But, we get about 300, 310 hours out, which I know is pretty far out. We're getting about mid-month time frame. We got this ridge building up into this region, as you can tell. And then we got this dip in the jet right into here. All right, we got a feed of cold air coming down into this energy indicated by this blue. And what I want you to really pay attention to is this. This, if we're going to get any kind of winter weather fun for the Mid-Atlantic and the Southeast, the sort of save winter, if you're a winter weather fan, because I'm going to put it like that because I am, it's going to be what happens with this lower pressure coming out the Pacific into the southern tier of the country. This is going to try to get excited down here. And if we can keep cold air coming down, this is the way that you get winter weather. And if Mitch had to say a time frame, and a lot of people take what I say as a forecast, but if Mitch had to say a time frame right now, if I had to say a time frame, I would say watch out from February 20th to February 29th. Basically, it's a leap year, so we got the 29th this year. That's going to be the time frame to watch if the Southeast or Mid-Atlantic is going to get hit. Now, it could happen before that. It could happen in a March. We know that. But, that's what I want to watch. You got energy going to try to dive down, and I definitely think you're going to have energy that gets going down here. And I really start to like this look as we get a little bit further. As you can tell, there's that connection. This is getting closer. It's the 18th, 19th, getting close to the 20th, and there's that lower pressure showing up. If you continue, this is telling me we're getting energy as in moisture, kind of going into this area right in here. And if you continue to get a cold air feed down to here, indicated, I know you don't have the pretty blues right in here, but if you continue to get some sort of a cold air feed, you watch for something to happen hitting into here, in my opinion, and maybe even a little bit further west. I know I didn't circle my friends in Tennessee, Kentucky much, or Alabama. I just drew a circle there. So this is something to watch. And if you look at the latest GFS ensemble, I mean, it looks even better for this. And I can tell you the ensembles have been changing a little bit. Not necessarily for the bad if you're a winter weather fan, but there's some different looks. Like for me, around the 13th, this tells me that we're going to get, I would say with that second storm, if it remains weaker, like over the Ohio Valley, the Midwest, the Mid-South, wherever it goes, to me this screams some sort of storm getting stronger off the coast of the Northeast Mid-Atlantic with our second storm. And then we continue to move a little bit further. This is what gets me somewhat excited if I'm in the Southeast. What you see here at this point is lower pressure down here indicated by the blue, right? And the GFS ensemble has a much better cold air feed into this area. And this tells me that you get some sort of money in this range. And this happens a little bit before. This happens about mid-month. And this is actually the latest GFS ensemble. And man, you can't get much of a better look for that than that. My speaking is terrible this morning. But that is a good look. I mean, that is a really good look right in here. So, not trying to get anybody overly excited. I know one thing, we're going to have to deal with this warm up coming up. Here it is. Warmer temperatures all the way into this weekend. Enjoy this weekend. I think this coming weekend is going to be a very nice weekend. It's going to get people in the spring fever. It's going to psych everybody out. You're not really going to feel it that much for the East at the beginning of the week, but as we get to the end of this coming week into this weekend, you're going to have a very spring-like weekend. But I think we snap back to reality very fast as we get into the following week after that. And that's when I start soccer too. For you folks that has been viewing for a while, this will be my third season coaching soccer, and it's looking like it's going to be a cold beginning of the season. And sure enough, you get about 10, 11 days out, and then this is when the below average temperatures begin to move in, and then they stay in for the entirety of the run. I mean, it gets colder and colder. So, it's the same thing with the GFS ensemble too, guys. I mean, it gets colder and colder and colder. So, and I'll show you this just for fun. This is the latest GFS ensemble snowfall mean between now and the next 15 days. I mean, it has a mean all the way down to Georgia and South Carolina. That does not mean we're going to get a half an inch of snow in South Carolina. That's not what Mitch is saying. I'm just saying, hey, there's the signal. The European ensemble doesn't have anything like that. It's not as excited. So we're going to dive a lot deeper into this tonight. Always dive a little bit deeper into this in the morning videos than what I want to, but we'll do it again tonight, hopefully. But that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and have a fantastic Sunday.